We are kicking off today with Britt Baker, and even months after her most recent appearance for AEW, the former Women's World Champion continues to be in the midst of drama. This week alone, it was reported that Tony Khan is fed up with her and that she was universally disliked in the company, though an update said this initial report was blown out of proportion. Now, Baker's name has come up in another AEW-related drama, but this time the controversy surrounds an audio clip that has gone viral that has been completely manufactured. The recording, supposedly from Tony Khan, sees Baker be described as a nightmare to work with and claimed that Baker is set to join WWE. The audio clip states, "Dude, between you and me, and this doesn't go anywhere but here, Britt Baker is a complete nightmare. Like, just the whiniest thing. You book her to go over, it's not good enough. She says the crowd doesn't like it. You book her to lose, she's pissed. She's done at this point, man. She's off to WWE." While this is shocking, it is completely made up, as PW Insider reports that the clip was generated through AI to sound like the AEW president. Despite reports, there's been no confirmation that Khan has a problem with her, and AEW are yet to make a statement about when or if she'll return to TV. Despite what this fake Tony Khan had to say, there's no confirmation that Britt Baker plans on joining WWE, though fans shouldn't rule that out in the future. When WrestleVotes asked a WWE source about whether the company would sign Baker if she became available, the source gave a resounding yes. With that said, WWE doesn't expect Baker to become available anytime soon, even with the DMD not being used on AEW programming since November of last year. Baker's AEW future remains a mystery, but fake AI clips only make things messier, and whether she returns to AEW or jumps to WWE, Britt Baker continues to make headlines amidst her hiatus. Would you like to see Britt Baker join WWE when she can, or do you think she'll be better once she returns to AEW's programming? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. On the latest SmackDown, Solo Sikoa left without saying a word in his first appearance since losing to Roman Reigns in Tribal Combat, raising questions as to what's next for him. Well, according to a report by WrestleVotes on Backstage Pass, WWE plans to shift away from calling Solo's faction of himself, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Tongaloa the Bloodline. WWE is moving away from the heels using that name now that Roman Reigns is officially the one true tribal chief after defeating Sikoa on the January 6th Raw debut on Netflix. With Sikoa having nothing to say last week, it was Jacob Fatu who did the talking for the group, as the Samoan Werewolf has been more talkative on WWE TV as of late. WWE is shifting in a new direction, and fans are curious if Sikoa's group will soon have a new name, or if an even bigger change could be in store ahead of next weekend's Royal Rumble. Do you think WWE should rebrand Solo Sikoa's faction, or should the Bloodline name remain intact? Share your thoughts below and let us know what you think about this major shift. As we previously reported, WWE had planned for Alexa Bliss to return to TV in San Jose, with her comeback said to be associated with the Wyatt Six. Before the show, WWE's creative team was told to scrap all plans for her, and with the Wyatt Six being moved to SmackDown, the group's creative is moving without Bliss involved. Now more has come to light about what happened, as PW Insider reports that this change wasn't due to creative, and on the contrary, Bliss was ready to return. The issue instead stems from a contract dispute, as WWE wanted Bliss to come back under her previous contract, which had time added due to her absence from the ring. Bliss, however, wanted a new deal, which is where things quickly went south, and with the two sides unable to reach an agreement so far, there's no clear path forward for her on TV. It is this situation that resulted in plans changing for both Bliss and the Wyatt Six, though there's no word on details for what she was meant to do with the group had she returned. The situation escalated when Bliss removed all references to WWE on her social media on January 14th, one day after she was supposed to return on the second episode of Netflix Raw. That change didn't go unnoticed, fueling speculation that her relationship with WWE is on shaky ground and leaving fans to wonder when, if ever, we see the goddess again. Fans hoping to see Bliss at the Royal Rumble will be disappointed, as the report says she's not factored into any creative plans for next weekend's 30-woman Royal Rumble match. There's no telling when Bliss will be back, if it ever happens, and do you think Alexa Bliss and WWE will work things out, or is this the beginning of the end? Share your thoughts in the comments. In AEW, the Don Callis family has proven to be an effective unit, and on this weekend's edition of Collision, the group will turn its attentions on Katsuyori Shibata. In a digital exclusive, Callis issued a challenge to Shibata on behalf of AEW International Champion Konosuke Takeshita, but what Callis had to say shocked fans. Callis invited Shibata to battle Takeshita for the title at AEW Collision Homecoming, but in an ominous warning, vowed to send Shibata back home to Japan in a body bag. Shibata's last shot at the AEW International title was back at Forbidden Door 2023, and we'll have to see if Shibata can win the gold this week, or if Callis' shocking warning comes true. If the past year has taught fans one thing, it's that you never know when JBL will show up next, and after being on this week's Raw, the Texan was part of this week's episode of Impact. In his first promo as world champion, Joe Hendry shared that he's told Santino Marella that he'll defend against anyone, anywhere, in a bold claim from the Scottish star. Santino, who is TNA's authority figure, appeared to share that he'll defend against this man, which was the cue for Matt Cardona to make his return to TNA. In the main event, Hendry and Cardona battled for TNA's top prize, and near the end of the match, Cardona grabbed the TNA World title and was about to get in the ring. That was until JBL jumped the barricade and floored him with a clothesline from hell, and Hendry and JBL shared an unspoken moment before the Hall of Famer left. Cardona recovered and hit Hendry with the title, but that wasn't the finish, and Hendry was able to retain his gold with his standing ovation finisher. JBL had been at Genesis, where he played a role in Hendry's victory, and last year, he appeared in several promotions, including a Hell Freezing Over appearance for GCW. The WWE Hall of Famer certainly has an interest in Joe Hendry, who he'd previously attacked in a title match at Bound for Glory, but it now appears JBL's stance has changed on the star. As we've seen, the multi-year partnership between WWE and TNA Wrestling is in full swing, leaving fans excited to see who will be next to cross the line. The partnership would have seemed impossible just a few years ago when Vince McMahon ruled WWE, but does the sports entertainment powerhouse have an ulterior motive for this deal? On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was shared that people close to this situation believe it'll end up with WWE owning TNA in what would be a landmark purchase for the former. There are some who think this would be a disaster, as typically companies WWE work with often end up worse off, or in the case of Evolve, being closed down after being bought by WWE. The report adds that one major factor in WWE's partnership with TNA is that they want the smaller promotion to dominate TV outlets, a move that would keep AEW off those stations. With WWE shows on Netflix internationally, WWE intends to support TNA to become big enough that they land deals in other countries using TNA so that WWE can continue to fight AEW. The NXT TNA alliance kicked off last May when Jordynne Grace showed up to challenge Roxanne Perez, and with this new partnership, fans can expect many more shocking moments from both sides. But what do you think of this? Do you think WWE is plotting to one day own TNA and potentially using TNA to keep AEW at bay? Is this the right call? Sound off in the comments. More from TNA Wrestling now, as this week's post-Genesis edition of Impact saw an appearance from Tessa Blanchard. With a third of the show left, Blanchard arrived to a mixed reaction to say the least from the Texas crowd and discussed her family's legacy starting in the Lone Star State. Blanchard said her family used to own San Antonio before bringing up some honorable mentions from her family's history in the Texas territory. She also hit out at San Antonio for not having a good sports team, arguing that the Spurs don't count, and also for losing the Alamo. Blanchard said that her legendary family had always known that there was something in her they couldn't be taught, something greater than Eddie Von Erich or even Stone Cold Steve Austin. From a young age, Tessa was told she'd be great, which earned her boos from the fans, but she carried on with her promo with a potential nod to the controversy against her. Blanchard said that fans will hear a lot about her, but they'll never hear she's not great, and after taking out the trash Jordynne Grace at Genesis, Tessa answers to nobody. That was certainly an impactful promo for Blanchard, who proved to be a heat magnet in TNA, and we'll have to see what's next for her after her win over Grace at Genesis. In a historic first, WWE Gold was on the line in a TNA ring as Tag Team Champions Fraxium put their gold on the line on Impact against the Rascals. The match began at the start of the second hour with Ariana Grace, the official TNA NXT liaison, introducing the tag team titles, and she also sat on commentary for the match. The momentum traded back and forth, with the Rascals getting a very close 2 count after a Street Sweeper double team move, but it'd be Wes Lee who'd make the difference. Lee showed up to distract his former allies, and this distraction let Axiom nail a top rope Spanish fly as Nathan Frazier hit a splash to retain the titles. Lee turned on Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz last year, and he clearly still has beef with the pair. And what do you make of this match and the finish? Share your thoughts down below. In late 2024, Zaria made an immediate impact when she arrived in NXT, but now fans won't be seeing the Australian superstar for the time being. On Twitter, Zaria shared news about her absence, saying that life happens and you have to take a step back for a bit, and shared that 5 weeks away isn't going to hurt. Zaria didn't state why she's taking a break, with fans speculating on a potential injury after Zaria said that she has a whole career ahead of her to think about. Whatever the reason, Zaria's break from the ring will be a short one and not a goodbye, but whether it's an injury, a personal matter, or just needing to recharge, she's out of the ring for now. Have you been impressed with Zaria since her arrival in NXT? How would you reintroduce the powerhouse once this 5-week break is over? Sound off down in the comments. At Genesis, Josh Alexander didn't just lose his I Quit match with Mike Santana, but declared after the bout that he was also quitting TNA. During this week's Impact, Alexander appeared to address his quitting, as Santino Marella told him that he had to be there. Alexander was serenaded with boos as he thanked TNA for letting him discuss things, and after priding himself on being unbreakable for decades, said Santana broke up at Genesis. Josh admitted to not being proud of his work over the past few months, which has seen the Canadian be a heel, and recalled watching the first ever TNA event back in 2002. Travis Williams and Judas Icarus were with Alexander in the ring, and he turned to tell them that they are a great tag team, but the pair told Josh he can't leave TNA Wrestling. The duo jumped Alexander, which led to Eric Young coming out to make the save, and a tag team match has been made for next week's TNA Impact. Alexander has said that he'll enter free agency next month, so his time in TNA isn't over yet, but fans are wondering what's to come for the Walking Weapon in the future. Alexander and Ethan Page were once allies as the North, with many wondering about a reunion in NXT, but for the time being, Alexander will remain a part of TNA Wrestling. But what do you make about the former Impact World Champion staying for now despite his quitting at Genesis? And where do you see Alexander going next? Let us know down in the comments. On this week's Dynamite, Christopher Daniels shared that after last week's brutal death match with Hangman Adam Page, he had been advised to retire from wrestling. Page looked momentarily stunned that he ended the career of a fellow wrestler, but have fans actually seen the last of the fallen angel in the ring? On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was shared that Daniels may not be done with in-ring competition just yet, as his angle with Page is set to continue. Sources shared that while Daniels isn't wrestling again for now, an angle is in the works for the veteran, meaning he may wrestle again later. On social media, Daniels has been selling his farewell as permanent, as he tweeted that he's sad that it's over, but so very happy that it happened. Daniels is retired, a term that wrestling fans know to take with a grain of salt, and do you think we'll see the Fallen Angel back in the ring despite this week's alleged exit? Let us know below. Pac faced Cope in the main event of this week's Dynamite, and after the match, a brawl ensued that included the Death Riders and Jay White. One fan got an up-close look at the brawl and on Instagram shared their video from the show and revealed that as White and Jon Moxley fought, he was accidentally struck in the head. Thankfully, the fan seems to have taken this in stride, but it goes to show what can happen when the wrestling action spills outside of the ring. At Genesis, Cora Jade confronted Masha Slamovich after the TNA Knockouts World Champion retained her title against Rosemary in the brutal Clockwork Orange match. On this week's Impact, the NXT superstar once again arrived, and this time she showed up during a 6-woman tag team match holding an image of Slamovich with a red X on it. Slamovich teamed with Spitfire to take on Rosemary and Ash and Heather by Elegance, and the distraction allowed Ash by Elegance to roll up Danny Luna of Spitfire for the win. This was just the latest shot in this brewing war between Slamovich and Jade, who vowed on Busted Open Radio to win the TNA Knockouts World Championship from Masha. At this point, a title match between the two seems inevitable, with the only question being whether it'll be Slamovich or Jade who have the home field advantage when it takes place. Jade's appearance was notable at this week's episode of Impact, and the former NXT Women's Champion went even further after the show went off the air. In the post-show tapings for the episode that'll air on January 30th, Jade was in action against Hyan, though this wasn't Jade's first time competing for the promotion. Back in 2019, Jade, as Elena Black, wrestled Havoc at TNA Prelude to Glory, and though she was offered a contract, turned it down to pursue her dream of making it to WWE. Now Jade has done that, but ironically, her WWE dream has led her back to TNA, and her match with Hyan gave TNA fans a taste of what's to come in her pursuit of the Knockouts title. TNA Wrestling clearly has a lot going on, but during this week's episode, fans saw the return of former X Division champion Mustafa Ali. Ali arrived to interrupt Mike Santana, who'd been speaking about his victory at Genesis, and his return earned a huge pop from the crowd. Ali said he wants to give the TNA fans something to believe in, and after Santana shared he plans on going after the TNA World Championship, Ali plans on doing the same. The line of challengers for Joe Hendry is quickly growing, and we'll have to see if Ali can reach the pinnacle of TNA and become world champion. More from TNA, as for some time there has been cryptic vignettes featuring the number 23, and fans got answers during the January 23rd episode of Impact. Another vignette aired as the show kicked off this week before it cut to a commercial, and when they returned, the commentary team pointed out the date of the show. Sami Callihan came out to say he was sick of waiting and demanded that whoever is behind 23 come to the ring, and that's when Steph Delander arrived with the TNA Digital Media title. Delander claimed that she won the title from PCO in the divorce, and with her on-screen husband out of the picture, Steph introduced her new boyfriend, Mance Warner. Warner took out Callihan before sealing his debut with a kiss with Delander in the ring while the pair celebrated with the TNA Digital Media Championship. This segment was a huge arrival for Warner and also saw TNA write off PCO after his controversial actions at the People vs. GCW, where he smashed the title with a sledgehammer. But what did you make of this? Are you excited to see Mance Warner in TNA Wrestling? And what did you make of how TNA wrote PCO off the show? Let us know in the comments section. The last time Nikki Bella competed in a WWE ring, it was in the 2022 Women's Royal Rumble match, but now fans could be seeing much more of her in WWE. According to WrestleVotes via Backstage Pass, WWE and Nikki have had significant discussions about a comeback, and those talks have reportedly been successful. The former Divas champion is now expected to return within the coming weeks, with speculation among fans that she could be a part of this year's Women's Royal Rumble. Nikki's return comes after she was seen in the crowd during Raw's debut on Netflix month, and the Hall of Famer recently teased returning to action. During an interview at Raw's Netflix launch, Nikki teased that fans could see the Bella twins back and said that she may be here looking at my competition. Nikki has said that she has seriously considered signing with AEW, but WWE remains her home, and whether it's at the Royal Rumble or later on down the line, her return is indeed in the works. During this week's AEW Dynamite, Mercedes Moné strutted backstage with her 4 championship titles and was ready for an interview with Renee Paquette. That was until Harley Cameron crashed the scene with a guitar in hand to sing an over-the-top song that focused heavily on her own breasts and tried to talk her way into Moné's good books. Moné quickly shut her down, saying that Harley hasn't won a single match and isn't remotely worthy of a championship match against the CEO. Despite Moné's rejection, Fightful Select reports that the plan is indeed for Cameron to face Moné in Harley's native Australia at next month's Grand Slam event. Cameron's comedic antics have won her over with fans, and she'll certainly get an ovation in her home country when she faces one of the very top women on AEW's roster next month. And we're ending with AEW, who have often gone head-to-head with WWE, and with Collision airing on Saturdays, the show sometimes competes against WWE PLEs in special events. This weekend, WWE will host its Saturday night's main event, while the Royal Rumble will come next week, giving AEW some fierce competition for viewers. On the Something to Wrestle podcast, JBL weighed in on this and shared that if it were up to him, AEW would steer clear of WWE programming altogether, stating that this is not WCW. JBL elaborated by saying that while AEW has great stars like Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley, WWE is an 800-pound gorilla and is not equal competition to AEW. JBL also pointed out that WWE doesn't take these head-to-head battles lightly, as this week's Saturday night's main event will feature title matches and an appearance by Shawn Michaels. Ultimately, Tony Khan will run AEW how he sees fit, even if it means going against WWE special events and PLEs, though JBL believes Khan would be wise to look for alternatives to fighting the competition.